Welcome everyone. Today we have another Wolcen guide. In this guide we'll be using the online character we have, which is level 78. We'll also try to push for level 90 today. Sorry, level 90. I don't even know what to say after that one. We push for level 90. I'm like speechless. So yes, this is a level 78 character, and basically I want to show you guys a few crucial things with stats. What are the stats that give us the most attack? And later we'll look into what are the stats that give us the most defensive capacities. And basically it's about the gear and stats today. So right at the start, let's look at the pieces of gears I have here. So if you're going for offensive stats on gears, you really want some physical damage increase on your gears, and that should be flat physical damage. Why is that? This is the reason, because a lot of your source of attack and things are multiplied onto the existing base damage. Currently I have 600% increase of my damage, and whatever number here we have added to the damage physical will actually do more because there's a lot of multiplication factor. Within the talent tree, we can see that there is, where is the offensive one? So if you go to the offensive one, you can see attack damage increase, and if you go to the offensive one over here, you can see the melee weapon damage, attack damage, melee damage, etc. So those all multiply onto the existing damage factor. And if you're looking for a weapon with high damage, you really should look for a weapon for two cases. One is that it at least have two sorts of physical damage increase for a physical weapon. It's hard to roll into a magical damage on the weapons with physical weapons. You can roll those with the catalyst with magical damage increase. As here you can see we have the spell damage increase. You can also roll for those on the two-hand staff for the magical damage. So if you're going for a physical build, at least two of the physical damage increase is really nice. After that, critical damage is good. If you are lucky enough to get 3 rolls like this one, it's actually really good. It's possible to roll for those because this is a legendary. Notice legendary have 6 different attributes down in the bottom, 6 modifiers. If you're going for a golden item, the maximum you can have is actually only, let's not go there. So if you look at a gold item, which is a rare, the maximum you have is only 4. So it's actually worth it to actually upgrade a decent gold item into a legendary through the upgrade system here. Oh, that's a big deal. Oh, got a few things. So you can go through the black market and upgrade item rarity from gold to legendary by spending quite a bit of resource. So this is quite expensive. The best way to do it is if you already have some really good existing stats. For this one I believe was critical damage, elemental chances, physical damage, and toxic. Then if you upgrade it, it's possible to get something further. So we got life leech and we also got lightning. Second to that, as for the most important offensive stats with a weapon, you should also be looking for material damage added onto attacks on this weapon. So notice this one, we don't have the last increase of weapon damage, which is something that's physical. So this one we had 3 different types of damage increase. This one only have 2, but this one will increase the physical damage added onto this weapon. So the rain damage, the physical damage, the toxic damage will actually be added. It'll be perfect if it adds physical, secret, and toxic, then with a percentage damage increase. That'll be the perfect row. And unfortunately this one didn't roll so perfectly, but it was not bad. Because it started with 2 physical damage and it had a decent stats, we upgrade this one into a legendary, and you can see the total damage is much higher than this one. Although this one has 3 different increments of damage increase, it is not as good as the 49% material damage increase. Unfortunately, it didn't have crit damage, it didn't have the elemental chances, so I'm still using this one for now. Second to that, if you want some really good attack stats on your gears, you should be looking out for the rings, the amulets, because those also can add flat attack damage. And the rings can only roll for the elemental damage, keep that in mind. Rings can roll for 1 or 2 elemental damage, I believe, and for this particular ring, notice here we have 1 ring added fire damage, 1 ring added lightning damage. You can add force damage as well, but only 3 elemental damage can be rolled here. So no point of rolling for ether, no point rolling for shadow. You can't roll for physical damage here, so only the elemental here. The rings can also give you other boosts in terms of critical damage, life leech, and flat HP, flat resistance, really good ones. Also percentage resistance. After that, the next boost of damage on your gears should be coming from amulet. Amulet can't roll for elemental damage, so element complements the ring. Ring only rolls for elemental damage. Amulet can roll for attack damage, which also it can roll for spell damage. it's possible to roll 2 spell damage or 2 attack damage, and sometimes even 3 if you're lucky enough. So what do you want to look for on element? The amulet is that you want to look for element stacks if you're going for any of the element build, because you can see this element has 2+ element stacks. You can go for those on the ring as well, but I didn't feel the need to. I want the ring to have high critical damage, so as you can see we went for high critical damage here. Here we just went for resistance. So the amulet definitely can use the +2 element. Over here we have +2 element as well, so when we apply element, we actually apply close to 5 element each time we apply 1 element, so 1 debuff. What you should look for the element for the amulet is that for a physical build or attack build, anything added to attack will be great. Something that adds to maximum health is not bad as well, because it reduces the need of you adding toughness. We can go for more ferocity or go for other things as well. As for the amulet, the best thing would definitely be something that also adds to the critical chance or anything that helps your build. The top writing says +22 to toughness. It's possible to get an amulet that plus all stats. This is what we're going to touch after this one, because plus all stats give us more damage. Plus 1 stats is only 22 points of stats. Plus all stats by 13 will give us about, how much is that? 65 stats. Yeah, 13 times 5, 65 stats. So 65 versus 22 stats is definitely better to plus all stats. I don't think I have a plus all stats amulet here, but we can find some of those. Those do appear, and notice this one is a plus 25 agility. You should really look for amulet that plus all stats. Yeah, it's hard to find those, but usually they come by. What you can do is you can start crafting a little bit of those. You can try to upgrade its rarity and use as a base to craft things, which we'll touch on a different guide. Lastly, there's things that also boost your damage. This is optional in the trial. If you happen to have it, it does save you a skill slot, which I do really prefer because you can't really save a skill slot otherwise. If you don't have it, something like this particular build actually increased my damage massively. I'll give you guys an example. The material damage 45% is not a big factor, but the 21 and 19 toxic and rend is massive. So what we're going to do is, before we equip anything, we'll show you the stats. Here I'm looking at 10,000 average damage. This number is not my normal damage. It's just a small summary of what my damage is in the normal attack. So if I put down the trial, I don't gain much because the trial don't have much stat. Only thing that gave us damage was the 9% agility. Now if I put on the steel belt, look at my damage. So I went up by 2,500 just with a belt with flat damage, and I think the material damage contributes maybe less than 200-300 damage. The 2,000 is definitely coming from the 2 flat damage. You can roll into a very nice belt if you're not using the trial, and this belt should ideally have at least 2 physical damage added, and you can get resistance, you can get max HP, you can get a lot of things. What you don't want is, notice here on top we say plus 100 force shield. You want something that gives you damage. Critical chance is good, critical damage is good, something that's actually a little better than this belt. This belt is not the best force shield, so I don't think I'll craft this one into legendary. But if it had something other than force shield, I think this is actually not bad. Because material damage is okay, elemental is okay, we can even roll for more things. Next up, with the offensive stats, what you want to look for is actually raw source of ferocity, toughness, or any major stats. Most builds don't use agility, so we won't touch much on agility. To use wisdom as offensive stats, you can use the force waiver, which turns your element chances of freeze into critical chance. And this is one of the reasons I have a decent critical chance with the gears I have. Notice this item doesn't have any critical chance added, but if I put this on, I actually get a bunch of critical chance. The reason being is that this particular item has 317% element chances, and element chances is converted into force chance, and that converts into critical chance. So that's one of the good things about me having more critical chance. Let's put this back in. And this one also not only have the critical chance, also element chances. So this is another boost of my critical chance. But if you don't have force waiver, and if you want to go for a toughness and ferocity build, what you can do is you can invest about 50-50 or maybe 40-60 into toughness and ferocity. And if each of your gears have those stats, you not only boost your critical chance, you also boost your damage. So notice here we have 81 ferocity and also 20 ferocity added on the gloves. So that's 100 ferocity. There's nothing else adds damage. So if we take these gloves off, let's have a look. If I take these gloves off, I lose 1000 average damage. Why is that? It's because I actually lost out on total damage. I am currently adding about 50%, actually not 50%, 80% of the, not 80%, 40%, right? Yeah, 40%. Yeah, close to 40, right? Oh, 30%. Huh. Oh, ferocity is not my highest factor. So wisdom and toughness is actually the highest factor. So what that means is each point of toughness gives me 0.5% added damage. Each point of wisdom gives us 0.4. And followed by that, 0.3 for ferocity. So what I really should look for is something like this one. So it's got 17 toughness plus 80 toughness. So I'm looking at close to 50% added damage. It's not a multiplicative damage, but it's about 50% added damage, which is not bad. So notice here, my bonus damage is going down by at least close to 50%. I'll put this back on. This item actually give me about, how much is that? 800 average damage increase. So it's a small proportion, but if all your items have raw stats, it's actually a massive change. Because of those raw stats like this one, it's not that great because agility is the worst one, but the other stats are really good. I'm still taking it for the other stats, but if you're just going for damage, raw stats on each of a piece of the gear will be massive. For the chest, if you're not using Force Waiver, consider going for ferocity build with lots of ferocity and toughness. That should give you damage boost close to about 700%. That's really good. Lastly, if you're going for a physical build, material damage will be better than all damage. So notice the gloves. Now we have material damage, you can have elemental damage, you can have arcano damage, you can roll for all damage. So all damage include everything you do. Material damage is just for the physical damage, which consider physical, toxic, and also rend. Most spells are physical if you're using the rage, that's actually the attack spell. Most spells are magical if you're using the willpower. So the gloves can be separately focusing on particular set of damage, or you can focus all damage. For a hybrid build, usually you want all damage because you do damage in all sources, but for a mostly physical build, it's material. For a magical build, you want to go arcano, ether, or elemental, which is a little rare to find with elemental, to be honest. So this is the last factor you should look for. It's not a major factor. I tend to sacrifice that for higher resistance. Notice I have like pretty decent resistance, and over here I have some really good resistance. Just massive resistance all around. We have flat resistance added onto the gloves. We have another 2 flat resistance added, and that makes me much more durable. That's something we're going to touch on the next guide about resistance, tankability, and how to survive with your gears. So the first one is about offensive capacities. There's something interesting with the chest and the belt, and also with the helmet, is that you can roll cooldown reduction. So why do I think cooldown reduction is also an offensive stat? Is that the shorter cooldown you have, the more likely you cast spells rotation, and the more spells you do, the more damage you do. So seek cooldown reduction not only offensive but defensive. You can cast more shield, you can cast more protection, you can cast more defensive spells and more core control spells. So also some of your spells can proc the life regeneration orbs, which is really good. So seek cooldown reduction in both of our defensive and offensive guide for stats. So here we'll have 32% cooldown. It's possible to roll to 40% cooldown. And notice for helmet that's great enough. This helmet had 2 of the resistance stats and also 1 big resistance stat. So I upgraded into legendary and we happen to find the cooldown reduction, which is really good. I don't even mind the resource generation and agility. Those just, it just happened to be there. Chest, you can roll for 40% cooldown as well. And also the legging, you can roll for 40% cooldown. So that's the biggest factor. And you can see there's a lot of other stats on my gears. This is my online account, and I'll share those with the next guide on the defensive stats for gears. Thank you for watching this one, guys. I'll continue to post some of the Wolcen guides and gameplays as we go deeper into Wolcen. I'm waiting for more patch, wait for different builds to arrive, and we'll test a few things out. Thank you so much for your support. I'll see you guys next time.